My name is Tammy. I'm standing outside the boardroom, the air thick with tension. The news has spread like wildfire through the office. The investment group behind our merger is a shell corporation controlled by our main competitor, and the new hire, Ava, was a planted operative. It's a corporate espionage scheme of epic proportions, and I'm the one who uncovered it. Let me take you back to how it all began. I grew up in a small town, the daughter of hard, working parents. My father was a mechanic, always patient and kind, teaching me the value of hard work and integrity. My mother was a schoolteacher, instilling in me a love for learning and a sense of justice. After graduating from college, I joined a marketing company. It was a humble start, with the company occupying half a floor in a downtown building with a temperamental heating system. Over the next 22 years, I dedicated myself to the company. I opened 7 international offices, built a solid client portfolio, and earned the respect of my team. I was there for my colleagues in their times of need. When Lily's father had a heart attack, I rearranged her workload so she could be with him. When Ryan's house burned down, I helped him find a new place to live. I knew their dreams, their families, and their struggles. Then, the company merged with our biggest competitor. Enter Ava, a 25-year-old fresh out of business school, with a degree still warm from the printer. She swept into my workspace like a hurricane, flanked by a group of executives who followed her like lost puppies. Everyone, I'd like to introduce Tammy. She'll be handling our legacy accounts from now on, Ava announced, gesturing towards me as if I were an old piece of furniture. And she'll report directly to me. The room fell silent. My colleagues, who I'd worked with for years, avoided my gaze. Mark from legal, Sarah from accounting, and even Lily, who'd shared lunch with me every Thursday for a decade, all looked away. Our CEO, Henry, placed his hand on Ava's shoulder. We need new energy in the European markets. Tammy can help you understand our history while you lead us forward. I felt like I was being written out of the story while still alive. Ava pointed to a cramped corner near the supply closet. That'll be your new desk. I need this office cleared by lunch. This was my office, the place where I'd spent countless late nights and achieved numerous breakthroughs. The wall still displayed a thank you letter from our biggest client after I'd saved their campaign during a natural disaster. Understood, I replied, my voice surprisingly steady. 3 hours later, I watched as maintenance workers carried my achievement plaques in a cardboard box while Ava directed the placement of abstract art on my former walls. Get rid of that old desk, too. It's ancient, she ordered. That desk was a gift from my team after our department won the company achievement of the year. My new workspace had a rickety chair and a computer that groaned when it started up. Then my phone rang. It was Ryan, who'd reported to me for 8 years. Tammy, I'm sorry, but Ava has called a team meeting in the Elm Room.
Right now.
It's just for the team leads. I was being excluded from a meeting with my own team. No problem, I lied. After hanging up, I received an email from Ava. It was a 16-page presentation on growth, strategy, and implementation. As I opened it, my heart sank. These were my exact proposals from 6 months ago, down to the specific market penetration targets for Spain and Italy. The same proposals that Henry had deemed too ambitious when I presented them. At 4:30, a sticky note appeared on my desk. My office, 5P.
M. Sharp.
Ava. I found her leaning against my old desk, tapping away on her phone. Sit, she said without looking up. I remained standing. Finally, she glanced up. Your European strategy proposal was received in the executive meeting today. You mean my European strategy? I retorted. Her smile didn't falter. Your research was useful groundwork, but groundwork isn't architecture, Tammy. I've modernized and elevated your basic concepts into something actionable. You copied my work word for word in some sections. I accused. That's a serious accusation, she replied, putting down her phone. Especially from someone in your position. People who've been at one company too long often become territorial and resistant to change. Henry understands this transition might be difficult for you. Is that why you excluded me from my own team meeting?
I asked.
She sighed dramatically. I needed candid feedback about departmental leadership. People aren't always comfortable speaking honestly with their former supervisor present. I realized she'd been gathering complaints about me. We're restructuring the department next month. Some roles will be eliminated, others will evolve. Your future here depends on your ability to adapt, she threatened. Is there anything else? I asked quietly. Yes, the Thompson presentation tomorrow. I'll handle it. The Thompson Group had been my client for 15 years, and their CEO, George, had specifically requested me for their annual review. I spoke with George this morning. He understands the new direction, she said. She was systematically taking away everything I'd built. My role, my relationships, my reputation. I walked out, passing the glass, walled conference room where my team was still in their meeting. They fell silent as I passed, their eyes avoiding mine. On my cramped desk, an email from HR arrived. A performance improvement plan, the first step towards termination. It listed resistance to new leadership and territorial behavior. I'd given 22 years to this company, sacrificed personal opportunities, and now I was being pushed out by someone who'd built her strategy on my work. That night, instead of crying or venting, I opened my personal laptop. I started working on a file that I hoped would change everything. I'd always backed up every project, email, and presentation for the past 15 years, believing in the importance of institutional knowledge. As I searched through the archives, I discovered something that shocked me. I worked through the night, gathering and analyzing data. By morning, I had compiled a file that made my hands tremble. As I drove to work, I realized Ava had made a huge mistake. She thought my power came from my title, office, and direct reports. She didn't understand that my real power came from 22 years of observation, relationships built on trust, and an in-depth knowledge of how the company functioned at every level. I arrived early and placed a manila folder on Ava's desk with a note. For your review, historical growth, strategy, outcomes. Then I went to my only remaining meeting, an 8 a.m. client call. When I returned at 10:30, the office was in an uproar. People were huddled in groups, and security guards stood outside the executive wing. Lily rushed over to me, her eyes wide. What did you do? Ava ran screaming into Henry's office 20 minutes ago. Then security came. They're all in there now. I nodded calmly and headed to my small desk. Aren't you worried? Lily asked. About what? I replied. At noon, an email from Henry's assistant summoned me to the executive conference room. The walk there felt like a dream. Eyes followed me, some curious, some fearful. I found Henry seated at the head of the table, flanked by our legal counsel, a strict woman named Vera, and the HR director. Ava was nowhere to be seen. Sit down, Tammy, Henry said, his expression unreadable. I sat across from him, placing my hands calmly on the table. The file you left for Ava. Where did you get that information? Henry asked. From our company archives and publicly available financial records, I replied. Vera leaned forward. You've made extremely serious allegations. I haven't made allegations. I simply compiled data. The patterns speak for themselves. I corrected her. Henry rubbed his temples. You're claiming Ava deliberately implemented strategies at her previous company that led to its collapse, and now she's replicating those same strategies here. Yes, and the data supports that conclusion, I said. That's absurd, Vera interjected. Why would anyone deliberately sabotage their own employer? I met her gaze steadily. 3 months before her previous company declared bankruptcy, Ava received a substantial payment from an investment group that later acquired their client list for a fraction of its value. The same investment group that now owns 30% of our company after the merger. Silence filled the room. You understand what you're implying? Henry asked quietly. I'm not implying anything. I'm showing you numbers, dates, and transactions that are on public record, I replied. The HR director cleared her throat. Ava claims you're retaliating because of the performance improvement plan and that you fabricated this conspiracy theory. I opened my laptop. Would you like to see the original sources? I've indexed everything. Just then, Henry's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and stood up abruptly. Wait here. When the door closed behind them, I sat still. Through the glass wall, I could see them huddled with several executives I didn't recognize, probably from our parent company. 20 minutes later, Henry returned alone, looking 10 years older. Ava has been suspended pending investigation. The Merger Oversight Committee is flying in tonight. I see, I said. He studied me with new eyes. You've been with us for 20 years. 22, actually, I corrected. Why didn't you come to me directly with this information? He asked. I thought for a moment. Would you have believed me over the rising star who promised to double our European market share in 6 months? His silence was my answer. You authorized her to place me on a performance improvement plan after 22 years of exemplary reviews. You allowed her to dismantle my team without consultation. You applauded when she presented my strategies as her own. I continued.
He winced.
I thought you thought she represented the future, and I was part of the past. I finished. What do you want, Tammy?
He asked.
I want respect. Not just for me, but for everyone who builds something valuable in this company. I want leadership that values institutional knowledge alongside innovation. I want credit given where it's due. I said. He nodded slowly. That's reasonable. And I want George's account back today before their contract reconsideration deadline. I added. Done, he said. As I was about to leave, he stopped me. The file. How long have you been working on it? I haven't been working on it at all. I simply pay attention. I always have. I replied. As I left the executive floor, my phone buzzed with messages from my team members. I ignored them. At my desk, Lily was waiting. Security took Ava's laptop, and they're scanning her emails. What's happening? She asked. A correction, I said simply. By evening, Ava's name had been removed from the company directory. Her office, my former office, was empty. That night at home, I poured myself a glass of wine. Just then, my phone rang. It was a woman's voice. Hello, is this Tammy? This is Carol Thompson, chairperson of the Merger Oversight Committee. I'd like to discuss your findings in person tomorrow morning. And I should inform you that Ava has retained legal counsel. She's claiming wrongful termination and defamation. I took a deep breath. I understand. Everything in that file can be independently verified. Let's examine this thoroughly. In the meantime, I've instructed Henry to place you on administrative leave, she said. Administrative leave? On what grounds? I asked. It's standard procedure during an investigation of this nature. We need to ensure there's no perception of conflict while we review both sides, she replied. After hanging up, I sat in silence. I was now in the same position as Ava, the accuser and the accused. Then the doorbell rang. It was Ryan. I should have stood up for you. We all should have, he blurted out. I let him in. Is it true? About Ava sabotaging her last company? He asked. You tell me. You worked with her presentations. Did anything strike you as odd about her growth projections? I replied. He looked down. The Nordic market targets. They're impossible without sacrificing our long-term client relationships. I tried to tell her, but she said you'd made us too cautious. And what did you think? I asked. He hesitated. I thought maybe she was right, that maybe you had become too conservative. His honesty stung, but I appreciated it. The Oversight Committee is coming tomorrow. I've been placed on administrative leave, the same as Ava, I told him. That's insane. After what you uncovered, they're treating it as a personal dispute, he said. His expression hardened. Tell me what to do. How can I help? I looked at him. I need people who know who I really am. The next morning, the Oversight Committee meeting was held in our largest conference room. When I arrived, I saw not only Carol and the executives, but also nearly 20 people, including Ryan, Lily, and other team members. Carol began, without pleasantries. Miss Tammy, we've reviewed your file on Ava. Her legal representation claims you've misrepresented data to create a false narrative due to personal animosity. They've also submitted evidence that you've been resistant to necessary changes, underperforming in your role, and attempting to undermine new leadership. My heart sank. Ava had been preparing for this. Before we proceed with your response, Ava has offered to drop potential legal action if you retract your claims and resign immediately, Carol said. A lawyer slid a resignation letter across the table. I picked it up and scanned it. This is quite thorough. Prepared in advance, I assume, I said. The lawyer nodded. We wanted to make this transition as smooth as possible. Smooth?
For whom exactly? I asked.
I placed the letter back on the table. I won't be signing this. The lawyer's smile faltered. I strongly advise you to reconsider. Ava's counter evidence is substantial. I folded my hands. I look forward to reviewing it. Carol nodded to an assistant who distributed thick folders. I opened mine and found emails taken out of context, selectively presented performance metrics, and edited statements from team members. I reached into my bag and pulled out my own stack of folders. What's this? Carol asked. Context, I replied. The room fell silent as they began to read. With Ryan's help, I'd prepared these folders all night. They contained the complete versions of the emails, full performance metrics, and notarized statements from team members. Lily was the first to speak. She told me Tammy was being pushed into early retirement and that I should distance myself if I wanted to advance. Ryan nodded. She said the same to me, that there was a confidential performance issue with Tammy and that we should align with new leadership. The lawyer's face reddened. These statements are clearly coerced. They're notarized. Each one was given freely with witnesses present. I cut in. Carol was studying the folders intently. This still doesn't address Ava's claim that your file on her previous company is a vindictive fabrication. No, it doesn't. For that, we need outside verification, I said. I opened the door and introduced a man in his 50s, David Miller, the former chief financial officer at Ava's previous company. The lawyer jumped to his feet. This is outrageous. We weren't informed of additional witnesses. David took a seat beside me. I was terminated 3 months before the company collapsed after raising concerns about suspicious strategy shifts. When Tammy contacted me yesterday with the patterns she'd identified, I recognized them immediately. Carol leaned forward. Mr. Miller, are you claiming Ava deliberately undermined your company? I'm stating that the strategies she advocated for were identical to the ones that bankrupted us, and she received a substantial consulting fee from the investment group that acquired our client list, he replied. The energy in the room changed. Henry turned to Carol. We need to involve our financial compliance team immediately. The lawyer was texting frantically. My client rejects these baseless accusations. Mr. Miller was terminated for performance issues. His testimony is motivated by personal grievances. David smiled thinly. Actually, I was offered a generous severance package in exchange for signing a non-disparagement agreement, but it doesn't prevent me from discussing individual employees' actions when they might involve financial impropriety. Carol turned to the lawyer. Does Ava wish to respond to these allegations in person? The lawyer's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his expression souring. My client is unavailable at present. Carol closed her folder. Then we'll proceed with a full investigation. Mr. Miller, we'll need a formal statement. Already prepared, David replied, producing a sealed envelope. As the meeting adjourned, I sat there, feeling hollow. This wasn't victory yet. Investigations could be derailed, and Ava had powerful allies. Carol remained. 22 years at one company. That's rare these days. Loyalty used to matter, I replied. She gathered her papers. You'll remain on administrative leave during the investigation, with full pay and benefits. Standard procedure. How long will the investigation take? I asked. Hard to say.
These things can be complex, she said.
2 weeks passed. The investigation continued behind closed doors. I was in limbo, neither terminated nor reinstated. One Friday evening, as I was in my garden, Henry came to my house. The investigation has stalled. The investment group is applying significant pressure. They're threatening to withdraw financial support if we pursue this further. The board is concerned about stock implications, he admitted. So, Ava gets away with it? I asked flatly. She won't be returning to the company, he said. While I remain on administrative leave until everyone forgets, and then get quietly phased out? I retorted. He couldn't meet my eyes. We're prepared to offer a generous severance package. I poured myself a glass of wine and went back to my garden. That evening, David called. They're burying it. The investment group offered me